When my dad was around 50, he fulfilled a lifelong dream of owning an African gray parrot. He'd always loved parrots, so it was heartwarming to see him finally have one after retiring. He named the bird Kevin and spent countless hours teaching him words and phrases. Kevin wasn't just mimicking sounds. My dad taught him to understand the meaning behind some of the words like, hello, what's up, food, thank you, and good. Kevin became my dad's closest companion. When my dad passed away at 70, Kevin became a symbol of him, a living, breathing reminder of the man who had loved him so deeply. My siblings and I had to decide who would take Kevin. Neither my brother nor sister wanted the responsibility, and their spouses weren't keen on the idea either. I couldn't stand the thought of giving Kevin away. He was one of my last tangible connections to my dad. So, I took Kevin in. His cage now sits in the den, the lowest level of my house. Kevin is a moderately noisy bird. He chatters in the morning and quiets down later in the day. If he ever gets too loud, I throw a blanket over his cage, which usually calms him down. Most nights, I sit in the den watching TV to keep him company, then head to bed around 10 p.m. One night in December, around 11 p.m., Kevin started making unusual noises while I was trying to sleep. I leave my bedroom door open since I live alone and need to hear what's going on in the house. Kevin's squawking that late at night was out of character, so I went downstairs to check on him. When I got to the den, Kevin was wide awake on the lower perch of his cage, bobbing his head up and down and moving his body like he was dancing. He repeated words like, hello, what's up, and his own name. I tried feeding him, but he wasn't interested. Hoping to calm him down, I covered his cage with a blanket. But Kevin didn't stop. I stood in the kitchen trying to figure out what to do. Then I felt it. A strange, unsettling sensation. Something wasn't right. I went back downstairs and uncovered Kevin. He was still dancing and making distressed noises. That's when I thought I heard something. A faint sound coming from the pantry closet near his cage. I walked over to the pantry and hovered my hand over the light switch outside the door. The pantry door had a glass panel, and when I flicked the light on, I saw the outline of a person inside. Adrenaline surged through me. I flung the door open, screaming, and grabbed the intruder. He was a homeless man in his 50s. He smelled terrible, and he tried to fight back, but I overpowered him, pinning him to the ground. Kevin went absolutely berserk in his cage. I yelled at the man, demanding to know who he was and why he was in my house. He tried grabbing my face, but I held him down, punching him until he stopped resisting. When he seemed too weak to fight back, I sprinted to grab my phone and called 911 while keeping him pinned. The police arrived and took the man into custody. He had no ID, no belongings, nothing. He was homeless and had raided my pantry, eating peanut butter, cookies, crackers, and other food. If it hadn't been for Kevin, I don't know what that man would have done. Kevin truly saved me that night. I like to think that in some way my dad is still watching over me through Kevin. This happened when I was a junior in high school. For context, my parents had recently divorced and my older brother had just left for college. It was just me and my little brother Reese at home. We were close in many ways, but the stress of our family situation often caused tension between us. One cold, wet winter evening, I got home after school and swim practice, ready to tackle hours of homework. My dad and Reese weren't home. Reese had swim practice with his club team after mine, and my dad usually picked him up. I grabbed a quick snack and headed to the basement to my office. It was a small, finished room in our otherwise unfinished basement where I did my schoolwork. I turned on my computer and started working on an essay about the picture of Dorian Gray. I was deep into writing when I heard my little brother's voice calling from upstairs. Quinny, come up." I sighed and called back, "Reese, I'm busy." "What do you need?" There was no response. I paused, realizing I hadn't heard anyone come home. Still, I figured Reese needed something, so I got up and checked the house. It was empty. No shoes, no backpack, no car in the driveway. My dad and Reese weren't back yet. Confused, I returned to my desk. But a few minutes later, I heard it again. Quinny, come up." This time, Every hair on my body stood on end. It didn't make sense. Reese wasn't home. I called out, asking if he was okay, but there was no answer. Against my better judgment, I went upstairs to check again. As I reached the base of the staircase leading to the second floor, I heard it a third time, but this time the voice was calm and unsettling. "Quinny, Quinny, come up." My heart pounded as I stared into the dark staircase. I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Then, suddenly, the sound of the garage door broke the silence. I ran to the window and saw my dad's car pulling into the driveway. I rushed to meet them, collapsing into tears when they walked in. I couldn't explain what had happened, and to this day, I still don't know who or what was calling me. 15 years ago, when I was a kid, my best friend Jackson and I stumbled upon an abandoned resort in New York. It was a sprawling property with old bungalows, a main hall, bathrooms, and even a pool. Everything was overgrown and falling apart. One evening, just after sunset, we decided to explore. We brought flashlights and walkie-talkies to stay in touch. At first, we stuck together, exploring the bungalows. Each one was eerily similar. Small kitchens, 1 or 2 bedrooms, and a single bathroom. Eventually, we split up to cover more ground. I tried to enter the main hall, but it was locked. I radioed Jackson to let him know, but he didn't respond. I assumed we were out of range. A few minutes later, I found a bathroom building. It had no doors, just large openings for the men's and women's sections. Inside, I noticed red stains on the floor, marks that looked suspiciously like blood. I radioed Jackson again, asking where he was. To my shock, the walkie-talkie beeped from inside the bathroom. Terrified, I called out for Jackson, but then I heard his voice behind me, outside in the darkness. "Don't go in there." Chills ran down my spine as I turned to see him approaching. I quickly walked away from the bathroom. When I pressed the talk button on my walkie-talkie, the beep echoed from inside the women's bathroom. We didn't wait to find out what was in there. We sprinted back to the road and didn't stop until we were far from the resort. Later, Jackson told me he had dropped his walkie-talkie in one of the bungalows after being chased by a woman who seemed to appear out of nowhere. Who or what was in that bathroom remains a mystery to this day.